Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. In today's segment, I want to discuss with you what is making our kids killers. And if you have paid attention in the media, this last week we had another young person decide that they wanted to commit random acts of violence in a public place against a whole bunch of people. And so I wanted to talk about this because we keep seeing in the media people are trying to somehow act as if firearms are the main cause of this. And clearly they're not, because if you evaluate the availability of firearms, people could mail order rifles up until, the early part of this century, and we didn't see this stuff. So what is happening? My background in discussing this is as one of a psych nurse, and for 3 years I specialized, although I floated in other areas, I specialized in adolescent pediatric psych. And I've seen a lot in inpatient psychiatric work. I've seen a lot of children with various different things, and I've also seen that there has been a steady change in what we're seeing in kids, and I want to go over that and why I think we're seeing some of this. The first and most obvious reason is the dissolution of families. Regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of even religion or belief system, race, whatever, the family has come under attack for the past 60 years for sure. The lack of a father figure, a stable father figure, is definitely something that I see as a big part of this equation. I noticed in my own practice that a lot of these kids who ended up having violence, either perpetrated violence or ideations towards violence towards their classmates or to other people, they had a really screwed up home life. And either dad was not in the picture, dad had never been in the picture, there were multiple dads in the picture. Whatever the case may be, there was a very definite problem with the father figure. And when we evaluate this, we look at what children learn from their different parents. And I do not subscribe to the theory that male and female are equal in their function. Equal in worth? Yes. Function? Absolutely not. Nature itself dictates this in your own observation. The father figure tends to bring order, discipline, and even reference to a deity if that person is in a believing family. A person's experience with a father figure and the father's role and relationship in the family has very definitive correlations as to the kid's discipline, their respect for authority, and if they are subscribers of a religious belief system, the way that they relate to God. So that I think is a big part of it. The other thing that I'm seeing is that over the past 20, 30 years, we have increasingly given our children toys as some sort of substitute for learning. There was a recent study that came out, and hopefully I'll be able to find it up for you guys and put it in the link. But the study evaluated across a whole bunch of different aggregates of people what the impacts were of parental child play, non-mediated play. I'm talking like parents sitting down with kids and just playing like hand chimes, like patty cake, and conversations with the kids. The parents interacting with a child without a third party, without a toy, without some piece of electronica, that seemed to definitely correlate with the child's, clearly, the social development, but also with the way in which the child perceived other people and their surroundings, and also their relative empathy. And so, like I said, I'm trying to remember where I read it from. It was a scholarly article, but I'll try and find that for you guys. We have, over the past few decades, thought that we could somehow make our kids smarter by giving them smart toys, that we could increase our kids' intelligence by shoving them in front of a TV and making them watch Baby Einstein, or by giving our kids like computer games that would teach them something. But when it comes right down to it, there is a sacrifice that is being made. And from the way that I see it, that sacrifice is we are teaching our children to be better adaptable at interacting with things and less able to interact with people. And this is more than just a social skills deficit, this is an empathy deficit. And when you're teaching children to have their head down from the time that they're little, or have their head staring at a screen, what you're not teaching them to do is to engage with another person, to look at another person, to cue from that person's facial features pain, anger, happiness, sadness, frustration. When we take our children away from their natural setting, which historically has been interacting with siblings, with family groups, and shove them in front of inanimate objects, and expect that to come out well, we're going to be disappointed. And that's one of the reasons why I think you're seeing this. In addition to that, we also have heavy medication of children, which is an entire different subject that I could go into and have a treatise on. But we see a lot of pharmaceutical intervention very, very early on with children in order to facilitate a range of things: scholastic achievement, behavior in school, behavior in settings that children honestly were never really best adapted to. It is very unnatural for children who are 6 and 7 years old to be sitting still for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. They never throughout human history have done that. They've always been doing or moving or learning, and that's play is an integral part of that. Play is how children learn. And there are different schools that do better at adapting this reality into their curriculum than others. But, that's another reason why people tend to medicate children. So we're seeing pharmaceuticals very early on in intervention with these kids, but also we're seeing a serious deficit diet-wise in nutrition. We have fatter children now than we ever have before. Obesity is, I hate using the term obesity as an epidemic. Well, it's not an infectious disease, but there are a lot of people who are feeding their children way too many calories and not enough nutrition. And we're facilitating this with children who are, living us on a steady diet of chicken nuggets, Debbie cakes, white bread, and mac and cheese. And that's not a recipe for success. What it is a recipe for is chronic gut disruption, and the gut really is your second brain. And so if your intestines are jacked up and your flora is jacked up, your serotonin levels are jacked up in your body. We're seeing this more and more, that a person's intestinal health has a direct corollary to their mental health, not just their physical health as far as obesity, but also their mental health. Okay, and so we're feeding people this deadly cocktail of non-nutrifying, fattening foods, high calorically dense, low nutritionally dense foods. We're shoving them in front of computers, giving them stuff instead of sitting them down with people. And the way that I see this really manifesting in the next few years is really we see that people are bowing down to their blue glowing rectangle screen gods. Like from an early age, people are teaching their children to do this. And I think that the core issue with why our children are becoming killers is because functionally they are less human. It's not somehow an inanimate object that is more available in doing the killing. If anything, the exact opposite of that argument can be made. Rifles, pistols, handguns, all of these catchwords, these weapons are less available for people to purchase. They have more hoops for people to jump through here in the United States than they ever have before. And yet people still persist. I know that's the cat. People still persist in blaming the tool as opposed to the person. But when it comes right down to it, our children are becoming less human because we are not encouraging them to interact humanely. And that is something that we as adults can help foster in children. When you interact with children, do it away from a screen, Of course, I'm saying this as you're probably watching me on a screen. I'm the height of irony, I know. But less screen time is better. More nutrition is better. Being in a setting and fostering a setting where your child can learn to be a human being, not just to be smart, but to be a human being and to interact with other people, and not just other children their own age, by the way. A child needs to see how people across the entire lifespan act. And in our current educational system, they do not get that. They just don't get it. They don't see that behavior being consistently modeled. They don't see the next step in their development consistently modeled in a meaningful way that they're regularly interacting with. So we are keeping children perpetually, and I would submit, in a stunted emotional state by doing things the way we're doing. So that's ultimately why I think our kids are becoming killers. And it isn't because of the guns. It's not because of the firearms. It isn't because we don't have enough gun control or enough gun laws. No, it's because our children are less human because we have not been interacting with them humanly. So I hope that was helpful for you guys today. If you did enjoy the video, I hope you'll subscribe. You can also support me on Patreon, and you can follow me there. My newsletter is going to be coming out in the next few days, folks. For those of you who are in my $5 a month Patreon category, there's a lot to talk about, especially as the CDC has just released their next batch of troubling stats related to STDs and why they think they're spreading, and some of the other factors we need to be aware of as well. I hope it was helpful for y'all. I hope you got something out of the video today. Have a wonderful weekend. Play with your kids without screens and without expensive toys. Like, sit with them and play with them and talk with them, imagine with them, do things that that all of our people used to do from way back when. For now, it's Patriot Nurse sign off. I'll see y'all later. And Chucky says bye too. Say bye, Chuck. Chuck says bye. Bye.